strong.
Chapter 221, Sky is 18 years old. Time passed day by day. These days the king's palace in Kangye was always very crowded, and there were people from all over the world who came to visit. The 6 countries announced their surrender, the dynasty's potential had been achieved, and no one dared to jointly deal with the Kangye kingdom. Ye Fushun and the rest of his life are now the best disciples in the eastern wasteland. There is nothing but compliance with general trends. Unknowingly, the end of the Shumshu calendar comes at the end of the 10,001 year, and it will pass. On the last night of the year, King Kanje's palace was so bright that he ate in the womb and arranged an annual banquet. Ye Tianzi, the queen, and the prince and princess were all there, Ye Fushun was there, and Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu were all very busy. Come on, all of you have a drink. At this time, Ye Tianzi raised a glass, and everyone laughed and raised their glasses to drink a glass of wine. I don't know why, there always seems to be a lot going on this year, it seems like years have passed, it's been a long time. Ye Tianzi said with a smile, I don't know if it's because of old age, sentimental. I feel the same way, Hua Fengyu nodded, although I haven't done much this year, it seems that I've been through a lot. Teacher, you've recovered from your injuries, and you also married Aunt Tang, how can you say you didn't do anything? Ye Fushun interrupted with a smile. Yes, mainly because I paid too much attention to your brat. Wu Fengfu sighed. It seems so. Ye Fushun smiled, and indeed felt that way. A lot of great things happened to him this year. He fled from Donghai city to the Kangye kingdom, attended the Fenwa feast, and then went to listen to the wind party to watch the ceremony, and then Luojun entered the Hanging King temple, opened the ancient kingdom, entered the ancient kingdom, and returned. Everything happened in just 1 year, and it felt like it had been too much. Things in this world are truly unpredictable. Yi Xiang also said with emotion, 2 days before the end of last year, I planned to wait until the end of the year to send Ye Fushun and the rest of his life to Nandu King City for a wind party, but then everything changed. Fortunately, everything was gone now, and the boy, Fu Tian, was a little annoyed. Hua Mary nodded, and was in trouble at the end of last year, almost disappeared. It's rare to get praise from your parents. Ye Fushun said with a smile, it was not easy to hear Ye Zhang's praise. Don't be proud, Luo Tianzi is still alive, Luo Junlin will continue to practice in the Hanging King temple. Everything is not over yet. Don't forget what Qin Lao has done for you, this revenge, you will report it directly in the future. Yi Xiang suddenly, he said that his tone was a bit serious, and it was necessary to hit Ye Fushun. It's easy to be proud of his youth. Ye Fushun naturally knows his talent, which is incomparable, but because of such talent, his heart should not be impetuous. Ye Fushun needs strong motivation at all times. I know. Ye Fushun nodded solemnly, thinking of Shishi, the laughter also seemed to disappear. Luo Tianzi, Hua Xiang, the Nandu family, and Donghai Zugong all had their share of death. This account has not been counted, they all remember. News of the Kangye kingdom has to reach Donghai city. I don't know what the big people from the Nandu family and Tokai Academy are thinking today. Is it still as high as before? Father, don't mention these things today, Yi Qingshuan began. Okay, not yet. Yi Xiang nodded, let's talk about you in the rest of my life. What are you talking about? Yi Qingshuan blushed, and Yi Xiang laughed. Time flies so fast, in the blink of an eye, he is 18 years old. Hua Fengyu smiled and looked at the young man in front of him. At that time, Qingzu Academy was still vividly remembered, and they didn't expect that they would grow up so fast. At the age of 18, they were no longer teenagers, and they were about to start a new life. I am 18 years old, master-in-law, when will see you marry me? Ye Fushun smiled. Everyone looked at him with a smile and Nandu Wening whispered softly, when I was at Nandu's house, I was the one who promised to be with you. Everything is yours, what's the rush? Ah, Ye Fushun blinked, then looked at Hua Jiyu with a smile, and nodded solemnly, Madam is right. Mother. Hua Jiyu couldn't help but look at her mother's smile, how could she sell her daughter like this? At the banquet, everyone's eyes were on Ye Fushun and Hua Jiyu. The 18-year-old Ye Fushun was already handsome and romantic, and Hua Jiyu was even slimmer, compared to the 15 or 16-year-old Qingzu city. She, the 18-year-old Hua Jiyu, was truly as beautiful as a curse, perfectly inheriting the beauty of Hua Fengyu and Nandu Wening, her body filled with purity and youthful beauty. The two people sat together and appeared before everyone's eyes like a scroll of images. They both blessed them secretly, wishing they could do so in this life. In a warm and harmonious atmosphere, at the end of the annual banquet, Ye Fuxian and his group were ready to hang out. By the end of the year, Kangye King City was prosperous and more lively than Qingzhou City. And Chen and Ling Shi, where are we going to play? Walking on the busy street of Kangye City, Ye Fuxian asked Ye Dungeon as they spoke. Would you like to visit the lake? Ye Lingshi asked with a smile. Ye Fuxian nodded. I will take you to Kangye Lake. Ye Lingshi smiled, then led the way. After some time, they came to Kangye Lake. At night, the bright lights, brilliant fireworks, and paintings of boats on the lake continued to flow, beautiful. I'm looking for a cruise ship. Ye Dungeon said. You help them find it, I think reconciliation is here to see the lake view. Ye Fuxian said with a smile. This is to live in the world of two people. Liu Feyang laughed, it seems that I am a bit overboard, dust-free, you help me take care of the drowning fish, I will go back first. He says he turned and left. Then you play alone, Ling Shi and I are shopping. Ye Dungeon smiled and looked at Ye Fuxian and Hua Jiu, then they left together. Let's swim in the lake. Ye Qingshuan took the rest of his life and left. Ye Fuxian glanced at Ye Wuchen and Liu Shenyu with a smile and looked at Ye calmly. Go relax. Liu Shenyu's eyes looked at Ye Fuxian, and then he said to Ye Wuchen. Okay. Ye Wuchen nodded, and the two left. On the side of Kangye Lake, only Ye Fuxian and Hua Jiu were left. Of course, there are a lot of tourists around. Occasionally they would see Ye Fuxian. Their temperament and beauty were simply too extraordinary. Some people also recognized Ye Fuxian's inner shock. This was the person who caused the situation in the land of the 100 countries to change and united the top forces in the eastern wasteland together. How do you feel about having a conspiracy? Hua Sheyu Mimu looked at Ye Fuxian. Have you ever felt familiar? Ye Fuxian smiled. Hua Jiu nodded. This was the scene when he was in Qingzhou City, except that the Kangye country was even more lively. Ye Fuxian stretched out his hand, pulled Hua Sheyu's lower hand, looked at the scene in front, and smiled brightly. I miss you so much, do you want to confess to me again? Hua Jiu blinked her eyes, then her face turned red, and Yusha wanted to back away from Ye Fuxian. Ye Fuxian didn't leave it open, he held his hand tightly, his head turned, his gaze fixed on the beautiful face in front of him. I saw Hua Jiu glanced at him with a glance, tilted his head, and snorted softly, but his face had a shy, red touching. This man was deliberately teasing her. At the beginning of Qingzhou Lake, he took the initiative to hold Ye Fuxian's hand and establish a relationship with him. Why is the fairy in my house always so charming, and you can't help but see your heart beat faster when you see it? Ye Fuxian said softly. Waji Yume looked at him for a moment, his face turned red. What's that, did you do something bad? Hua Jiu rolled her eyes and asked suspiciously. Ye Fuxian's face turned black and he said, what bad thing can I do? I won't be with you when I arrive in the eastern wasteland. Are you going to do bad things? Hua Jiu said with a smile. I only have you in my eyes. Ye Fuxian said solemnly. Hua Jiu snorted softly, glanced at her head, Mei showed a bright smile, sweet in her heart, even if this person is rhetoric, she is still willing to be deceived. Close your eyes, Ye Fuxian said again. Waji Yume looked at him shyly, what do you want to do? Ye Fuxian stretched out his hand and gently hugged her slender waist, her head was a little closer. Hua Jiu's heart skipped a beat, her reddened skin glittered, her eyes slowly closed, her head slightly lifted, and the lights reflected on that beautiful face, dazzling for years. Ye Fuxian was so excited that he hugged Hua Jiu's body and kissed her red lips. Time seems to still exist in the present. At this moment, countless fireworks exploded into Kangye Lake, blooming in the air. Countless eyes looked up at the sky, watching the beautiful fireworks bloom, all over the sky, beautiful. Very beautiful. Many people wonder why fireworks bloom so neatly and so beautifully. On the path along the shore of the lake, Liu Shenyu and Ye Wuchen were walking, and suddenly looked up at the sky, stopping unconsciously. So beautiful, Liu Shenyu muttered, her heart trembling. Ye Wuchen looked at the fireworks, then looked at Liu Shenyu. Under the fireworks, Liu Shenyu is so charming at this moment. As if sensing something, Liu Shenyu retracted his gaze and saw Ye Wuchen staring at himself, but he couldn't help but beat his heart slightly. On the Kangye Lake, the remnant of the life of the cruise ship and Ye Qingshuan stared at the beautiful fireworks in the sky. Ye Qingshuan leaned gently on the arm of the rest of the life, hoping this moment would be eternal. Hua Sheyu's beautiful eyes opened quietly, Ye Fuxian still kissed her, the sky was full of fireworks, as if blooming for her. In this situation, he closed his eyes again, and a very bright smile appeared on his face. Time doesn't seem to move. Scroll, immortal in the moment. Chapter 223, Straw Disciple at the top of the Shushan stairs as the academy. Entering the arched door, there was a square in front, still surrounded by a mountain wall, with many winding stairs leading to various places in Shushan. Everywhere, there are ancient palace courtyards, like swirling clouds. Among them, it was spectacular. Today was the day the academy's new students entered school, and of course someone greeted them. At this time there were many people in the field. Seeing the figure walking into the academy, many people smiled. It is said that this group of students who have entered the academy are very good, especially some of them. They are very talented, which is rare. Genius character. Could it be Quashan? Someone shouted at this moment. Yes, Quashan took a step. May I train with Master Zongzushan? The man asked. The disciple's eyes bulged, and many people looked enviously at Quashan. There are 7 mountain leaders in the academy. Zongzu's strength can definitely rank in the top 3, and there are many excellent geniuses under his door. Yes, Kushan nodded. Ningong Zhao, the man shouted again. Yes. There was a look of anticipation in Ningong's beautiful eyes. Would you like to train with Master Zhu Kangshan? Of course, Ningong Jiaomi's eyes shone with joy, and he nodded, disciples are willing. Tuo Bayu, you might want to train with Qin Mushan. Disciples are willing, Tu Bayu nodded. The young people who enroll in the school are named and assigned to train under the 7 gates of the academy's academy. However, none of them are qualified to follow the dean's practice. Of course, they also understand that this is almost impossible. Every disciple under the dean's door is an extremely extraordinary person. As for the hut, no one thought about it. However, it seems that there is still no name. Ye Fusion and the rest of his life had been standing silently next to each other. They wanted to ask, but they didn't have time to talk. Convenient for them to start calling. He had to stand quietly and wait. Fortunately, there weren't many students in the school. It is over. Under the mountain gate, there were people who had come to meet the new students. Apparently, the academy had made a decision beforehand and learned of the news. In fact, when they were accepted into the school, they had already confirmed that they would only be qualified to go to the academy to train if they were guarded by the head of the mountain. Otherwise, it would not be a shame that no one would be accepted into the academy. The disciple also looked at Ye Fusion and the rest of his life, and said with a smile, if these two come to study, please wait until next year to take the college entrance exam. Tuba Yunan Gongzhao and others glanced at Ye Fusion, thinking that the two people were indeed mixed up, but they did not ask themselves. But the disciples in the academy were also polite, just smiled and let them go. Excuse me, where is the hut? Ye Fusion asked and looked at each other. Cottage. The man's gaze was fixed, and the students around the academy turned around, staring at Ye Fusion for a while. Even Quashan, who never cared about these things, looked at Ye Fusion, and he asked the hut. What are you asking the hut to do? The student asked after a short pause. I will train in the thatched hut. Ye Fusion responded. The disciple was stunned again, and said, the cottage must not accept disciples, you must go back. The people around me look like Ye Fusion is like an idiot, so he's going to train in a thatched hut. My name is Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion opened his mouth, thinking that the people on campus didn't know if he knew himself. His voice dropped, and there was no sound at all. The academy students looked at him with their eyes, staring at the handsome figure closely. Ye Fusion, a familiar name, was often mentioned in the academy at the end of last year, and the name gradually faded until the academy announced that it would not go to Kangye. However, the academy disciples naturally heard the name, and at this moment, not only did the name appear again, but Ye Fusion and others were also standing in the academy. Since he is Ye Fusion, naturally he is qualified to appear in the academy, even if he does not take the academy examination. Since he is here, he is qualified to enter the academy. After all, it was the existence of records from the ancient world. But Ye Fusion, he came to the hut. Tubayun's eyes were fixed on it. As a princely family, he naturally heard of Ye Fusion's name. Although he had not experienced anything in the ancient world, Ye Fusion's name was mentioned by many at the end of last year. And also, before going up the mountain, he quipped Ye Fusion that you thought you were Xiao Wuji. He is not Xiao Wuji, he is Ye Fusion. At the peak of Mirror Mountain, he broke all of Xiao Wuji's records. Ningong's beautiful eyes also looked at Ye Fusion in amazement. On the stairs at the top of the mountain, he didn't think that this handsome young man who was born so beautiful would turn into Ye Fusion, the center of the ancient world. Breaking the war drum on Mirror Mountain, speaking to the arrogant people who know me and explaining my arrogance, it is hard to imagine that he will be so handsome, and that humans and animals will be harmless when they laugh. Looks like he can't feel a little proud of himself, looks humble and bright. After the silence, there was a commotion. Ye Fusion actually came to the academy. Does he want to go to the academy to train? However, even if he breaks many records in the ancient world, in a place like a thatched hut, God knows whether to accept disciples. You ask what the hut was doing. The disciple looked at Ye Fusion for a moment, and asked Ye Fusion, his eyes slightly dignified. Ye Fusion's name was enough to make him notice. The people in the thatched huts asked me to train in the thatched huts. By the way, he seems to be called Jiu Dongyu. Ye Fusion smiled, and it was quite useful to report his name. Jiu Dongyu. The people around heaved a sigh of relief, and the disciples in the academy looked enviously at Ye Fusion, and the academy announced that they would not go to Kangye. However, the thatched cottage left without notifying the college. Moreover, the person who left was Jiu Dongyu. The thatched cottages act as usual. Why is Jiu Dongyu so famous? Many people said he would be the next sword master. Why is the cottage so famous? At that time, the sword sage descended from Shushan, and the war was sealed. Since then, no one in the world knows the name of the hut. The disciples around the academy heard that Jiu Dongyu let Ye Fusion come to the hut, but he didn't know what to say. Not far away, a line of figures came to the side. Tang Ye was among the crowd. His eyes crossed the crowd and instantly fell on Ye Fusion. A moment later, the passerby came to Ye Fusion. Tang Ye's appearance was not good. At first, he humiliated Ye Fusion at the Jingshan stone wall. How arrogant he was, but then this matter became a laughing stock for others, so his face was gone. Fortunately, the academy announced that he would not be going to Kangye. Fusion misses campus. However, the academy announced that they would not be going to Kangye country and the lodge was there. Jiu Dongyu left. The academy elders didn't know about it until after that. When acting in the thatched hut, they didn't tell the academy at all, which made the academy a little shameless. Therefore, the university did not disclose the problem. Ye Fusion looked at Tang Ye with a calm look. Tang Ye was insulted by him that day. Tang Ye would definitely not be comfortable with that. Besides Tang Ye, there is a figure, this person is very extraordinary and handsome. His name was Su Muge, and the dean personally bequeathed his disciples. Among the younger disciples in the academy, his talent could rank within the top 10. At this time, Su Muge's eyes stared at Ye Fusion, and he said, "Welcome to join the academy. Thank you very much for your advice." Ye Fusion raised his hand. At this time, the atmosphere was a bit mellow, but since the other party was welcoming himself, naturally he couldn't be rude. I have heard of everything you did in the ancient world. Although I have not seen it in person, I can repeatedly break records and take the glory of the Jingshan stone wall. Perhaps in some aspects, there are some talents that can be compared. Su Muge slowly spoke, as if praising Ye Fusion. It's just that spiritual practice isn't just about talent. Tang Ye also accused you in the ancient world. You have proven him wrong, but even so, in the ancient world, you are still behaving too aggressively. Stomach, even if you can use your external strength to exert your strong strength, it is not your own strength. If you find that one day your strength is not as strong as your talent, it will not be a shame, and your mind will be easily damaged. Su Muge slowly said, after all, talent is not the same as strength. Ye Fusion was stunned. Is this a compliment or an education? Why do other people's words feel strange? Liu Feiyang said to himself that although the thatched cottage belonged to the academy, the relationship between the two was a little smooth now, and it seemed right now. Not only him, but also the students from the surrounding academies discovered that Su Muge was the dean's disciple. Ye Fusion is about to enter the hut, he just arrived. Su Muge seemed to be welcoming, but it was a lesson. The attitude of the hut is obvious. However, thinking that the academy announced that it would not go to Kangye, the lodge would turn around, and everyone would understand that the cottage did not give the academy the face. How many prince statues did you leave on the Jingshan stone wall? At this time, a voice came, and Su Muge turned his eyes, and then saw a fat man with a slightly rounded figure coming here, and the fat man was dying. He looked at Su Muge with a smile and walked towards him step by step. Su Muge frowned, and the fat man said again, "How many inches did you leave?" Su Muge frowned even more. "Have you ever controlled the statue to move it?" the fat man asked again. Su Muge's face was slightly unsightly. "You didn't do anything, you have no talent, say fart." The fat man did not turn the face of the disciple to the dean, said coldly, and then ignored others, looked at Ye Fusion and narrowed his eyes and smiled. I am Yi Shaoxi, my younger brother, but I have been waiting for you for a long time. A smile gradually appeared on Ye Fusion's face, or Kotang's taste. Hello brother, Ye Fusion said. Good to say, come on, let's go to the thatched hut. Yi Shaoxi didn't bother to look at everyone's faces, so he picked up Ye Fusion and turned around. How old is your brother? Ye Fusion approached Yi Shaoxi and asked. 7th. Yi Shaoxi smiled, he was the youngest. What about brother Jiu Dongyu? Ye Fusion asked again. That's 3 brothers. 3 brothers are so strong. Ye Fusion's eyes brightened slightly, thinking about Jiu Dongyu's prestige when he was in the Kangye kingdom. It seems that someone will cover it up in the future. So, who is the Brotherhood of Brothers? Chapter 224, So Close. The thatched hut belongs to the academy, and of course it is also on top of the mountain of books, up the winding mountain stairs. The loneliest peak on the mountain is the thatched hut seat. On the mountain road, Ye Fusion couldn't help but ask, who are the 2 brothers? Jiu Dongyu was able to withdraw from the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong at a glance. What about the 2 brothers? I haven't seen Big Brother. I have descended the mountain many years ago. I wasn't born at that time. Yi Shaoxi said, but you should have heard that perhaps Big Brother is enjoying the blessings right now on the sacred mountain sword. On the sacred sword hill. Ye Fusion's eyes flickered. I remember when Liu Shenyu introduced him to the academy didn't teach anything, and even taught other family disciples. Several great figures in the eastern wasteland dropped out of the academy. However, he was a little surprised that the top army, the sacred mountain, had practiced in the cottage academy. Well, brother is probably the most famous disciple in these centuries. Yi Shaoxi nodded. Who? Ye Fusion blinked. Holy sword. Yi Shaoxi smiled and squinted, looking at Ye Fusion. Suddenly Ye Fusion's gaze froze there, his face stunned. Although I thought that the big brother might be very good, I didn't expect it to be so good. Sword Holy Mountain, one of the top forces in the Eastern Wasteland, is in the western part of the Eastern Wasteland. This giant of great power turned out to be a disciple, master. Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu didn't even remind themselves, no wonder Liu Feiyang only said one word when the hut invited him. In the future, I will have the opportunity to visit Dosheng Mountain. So, weren't many of the strongest people in Sword Hill their own descendants? Currently, he is also a person who has an identity. Yi Shaoxi was a little proud seeing Ye Fusion's surprise expression. It seems that Big Brother is a person who has a story, Ye Fusion said in surprise. That's natural. I heard my sister say that the hut didn't have a good reputation decades ago. The Cloud Sword Master once spoke kindly to his teacher. Then the teacher went down the mountain and defeated Kendo Cloud Sword Master. Victory won, God sealed in the First World War, and he was sealed with a sword. With this battle power, the master went to the eastern homeland and the western region to establish a sect, and the strong people gathered. I don't know how many people want to worship. So today here is the Holy Sword Mountain. Ye Fusion heard Yi Shaoxi's words as if he could imagine an extraordinary legend. The older brother is a cow. No wonder Liu Shenyu said that the people from Sword Mountain and the Fuyun sect would not deal with each other as long as they were together. Why does the academy have an opinion about the hut? Ye Fusion asked again. Don't mind the words of those people, you can't enter the hut, so you are naturally jealous of you. Yi Shaoxi said, as for the matter between the academy and the lodge, it is not clear to me. It is said that the teacher asked the teacher's opinion before going down the mountain. After thinking of staying in the academy, the teacher asked him to come down the mountain to stand on his own. This seems to be a little dissatisfied with the academy. A master-level figure who can open a school and establish a sect with the existence of Fuyun Jian Zongju is willing to stay in the academy. You can imagine how strong the reputation of the academy is, but the teacher let the big brother go down the mountain and build his own door. Ye Fusion's eyes flickered and he asked, how strong is the teacher? I don't know. Yi Shaoxi shrugged, his teacher said he is not good at practicing. You do not believe. Ye Fusion looked at Yi Shaoxi. I do not believe that. Yi Shaoxi shook his head, but no one seems to have seen the teacher do anything. Where is the second brother, any story? Ye Fusion asked again. Yi Shaoxi showed a strange look, and immediately said, there is no brother in the cottage, only the second sister. As for the story, you will understand it later. Ye Fusion's eyes shone for a moment, and he nodded, Sister Shi. His whole life followed him honestly. He heard the sound of Ye Fusion rolling over and rolled his eyes. Just had the wings hard. At the end of the winding stairs, there are light clouds and fog over the mountain of books, and the air is full of freshness. The mountains are cool and there are thatched huts. Not as luxurious as other buildings seen on the street. Looks very simple. Is this the origin of the thatched hut? There is a river in front, and there is a figure on the stone steps in front of the river. It washes like a woman. It seemed that she heard the voice, and the woman turned around and showed her beautiful face. She was actually a very young girl, younger than Ye Shaoxi. Her beautiful eyes fell on Ye Fuxian and the rest of her life, and she smiled, little brother. Little brother like that. Ye Fuxian showed a strange color. Isn't this the second brother? This girl must be younger than him. This is Sister 6, Ye Shaoxi introduced. Brother Shi. Ye Fuxian smiled brightly and shouted, Brother Shi looks really good. Come again. The rest of his life seemed dark. The girl heard Ye Fuxian's praise and smiled sweetly, saying, Little brother also looks very good. Is the second teacher here? Ye Shaoxi asked. Okay, here it is, the girl laughed. I brought him to see the second teacher, Ye Shaoxi said. Okay, I will help Sister Ershi finish the clothes and come back, the girl said quietly. Ye Fuxian showed a strange expression and helped Sister Ershi do the laundry. Ye Shaoxi raised his steps and did not pay attention to the words of the young girl, seemed to be getting used to it. Ye Fuxian followed, and asked curiously, why is the sixth teacher so young? Sister Liu Shi is an orphan, and the teacher took her out on tour. She started earlier than me. Although younger than me, she is still a sister. She has trained with Brother Ershi. Ye Shaoxi said. Ye Fuxian nodded slightly. The three walked forward and arrived at several clean thatched huts. There were also 3 people, a woman and 2 young people. The woman was tall and wore a white dress. He looked gentle and weak, but his eyes were very energetic. Her eyes are very beautiful, her body is light, she is beautiful, and she is a rare beauty. At this moment, she was standing under an ancient tree, like a fairy. The other 2 youths looked busy, one was copying books and the other was cooking a fire. Seeing Ye Fuxian's arrival, the 3 looked up, and their eyes fell on Ye Fuxian. The woman's eyebrows arched, her eyes smiled slightly, and she looked at Ye Fuxian. Little brother is here, the woman said, her voice was very soft and she showed tenderness. Brother Shi. Ye Fuxian smiled brightly, I thought I saw the fairy. Ye Shaoxi's corner twitched next to him. It turned out that Shaoxi was not only talented, but also had a strong mouth. Good. The second teacher smiled a little more beautifully, and said, I only heard the third teacher say that the younger teacher is very talented. I didn't expect to have such a vision. Sister Shi was born a beautiful fairy, and I am not blind. Where should I look? Ye Fuxian said very sincerely. Sister Ershi smiled even brighter. Come on, brother, come and sit down. In front, the brother who copied the book smiled at Ye Fuxian. Keep doing your business. A shallow laugh escaped the second teacher's mouth. The brother suddenly stunned, sad, and returned to the book to copy it. The cook who was cooking just wanted to say something, looked at Sister and then lowered his head to do things honestly. Ye Fuxian blinked. What happened? That's 4 brothers, that's 5. Ye Shaoxi introduced Ye Fuxian next to him. The youth who copied the book was ranked 4th, and the rice cooker ranked 5th. However, this painting style is different from Ye Fuxian's imagination. Shouldn't they all be like brother 3? Are 2 older brothers too weak or older sisters too strong? Why hasn't the girl finished washing her clothes? Her shoulder is a little sore, my little brother came to help me. The second teacher said to Ye Fuxian. Ah, Ye Fuxian blinked, isn't this good? But doing something for a sister is also appropriate. What's more, starting on the first day of today, of course, my brother's words must be listened to. Thinking of this, Ye Fuxian lifted his feet and walked forward. Ye Shaoxi slumped, and turned to leave. Where are you going? Sister Ershi looked at Ye Shaoxi. I will practice. Ye Shaoxi turned around and laughed. Practice here, said the second teacher. Yes, sister. Ye Shaoxi nodded honestly. Ye Fuxian walked to the sister. 4 and 5 brothers looked at him, although they did hard work, but did not envy Ye Fuxian, secretly mourned for him. Ershi's sister sat in front of the tree. Ye Fuxian walked behind her and stretched out her hand. Ye Shaoxi looked at Ye Fuxian sympathetically, but the brother didn't remind her. My brother is here. At this time, a voice came. Ye Fuxian turned his eyes and saw a human figure coming from a distance. The speed is very fast. The Jiu Dongyu he saw. Now, the brothers and sisters in the thatched hut are all counted, only the teacher has not seen them. 3 brothers, Ye Fuxian shouted. Ha! Jiu Dongyu nodded and looked at Ye Fuxian. Everything here doesn't need you to come, you go to the thatched hut. Ye Fuxian heard Jiu Dongyu's words and looked at Sister Ershi again, and saw Sister Ershi smiling with a smile. Don't mind him, help me to the shoulder. There isn't any. Ye Fuxian looked around. 4 brothers, 5 brothers, and 7 brothers were looking at him at this moment, while the third brother was looking at the second sister. The atmosphere is so wrong. Eyes blinking, Ye Fusion said, Brother 7, we haven't met the teacher yet. Take me to see the teacher. When he said it, he lifted his steps and wanted to leave, which was dangerous. The teacher was lost by your third brother. Where did you go to meet? The second sister said with a smile. Ye Fusion just felt a little messy, and the teacher was lost by the third brother. Lao Chi, take the young master to get to know the environment. Jiu Dongyu said. Yi Shaoxi nodded and said, yes, sister, follow me. Ye Fusion raised his steps and followed Yi Shaoxi. Jiu Dongyu was still looking at the second teacher. The second teacher sat indifferently, calm and beautiful. If Ye Fusion doesn't understand the situation, he has a brain problem. Very dangerous. Chapter 225, Life is so beautiful. Ye Fusion left Yi, walked on the street, and asked, 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Yi Shaoxi patted Ye Fusion's shoulder, and said, in the thatched hut, the teacher doesn't care about anything. Inside the second master and third master, outside, do you understand? I understand. Ye Fusion nodded, a few stalls. That scene was weird. What happened to the teacher when he lost it? Ye Fusion asked, speechless. That's a long story. Yi Shaoxi said, third brother brought the teacher on a trip. Halfway through, the third brother saw the uneven hero to save the beauty. Beauty is saved. They followed Shushan all the way. The 3 brothers will be miserable after that, do you understand? Ye Fusion thought of Sister Ershi and nodded, of course he understood. Teacher followed the 3 brothers on a trip. Ye Fusion was a little messy. You will understand after seeing the teacher, too lazy. Yi Shaoxi shook his head helplessly. Ye Fusion wondered how lazy his teacher was. What about beautiful women? Ye Fusion said. I was kicked out by the 3 brothers. Yi Shaoxi said. Ye Fusion's face was black. Lost master, who taught me the practice? Ye Fusion was a little depressed. Teach you to practice. Yi Shaoxi looked a little strange. Okay. Ye Fusion nodded solemnly. I used to be so naive, Yi Shaoxi sighed. Then, the teacher said that all those who came to the cottage to practice with the best talents. Do you still need to teach? That makes sense. Ye Fusion nodded solemnly. I also think it makes sense, Yi Shaoxi sighed. Is it too late to go down the mountain? Ye Fusion looked at Yi Shaoxi, feeling somewhat cheated. Yi Shaoxi patted Ye Fusion's shoulder again. The environment is still good, and there is a beautiful sister. The food is delicious, Yi Shaoxi added, remembering something. Ah, Ye Fusion sighed. Not far away, the girl walked to the side after washing her clothes, and smiled slightly at Ye Fusion. Why is the little brother sighing? Brother, I regret why a good place didn't come earlier. Ye Fusion smiled brightly. Well, but aren't you in the hut by now? The girl smiled sweetly. Sister Exinger, please go and I will take her to where I live. Yi Shaoxi said. Beatang Exinger nodded gently, and then stepped towards Sister Ershi. Is it Sister Exinger? Ye Fusion asked. Well, Sister 6 is called Beatang Exinger, Sister 2 is called Zhu Gehui, Brother 4 is Zuye, Brother 5 is Luo Fan, Brother 3 should know. Ye Fusion nodded, writing down these names secretly. Yi Shaoxi took Ye Fusion and the rest of his life to the 2 huts and said, let's live here in the future. Okay, okay. Ye Fusion nodded. He doesn't care if he lives a little humble life, and he is not an honorable master. I'll call you after dinner. Although the practitioners absorb the aura of heaven and earth, in the hut, 3 times a day can be used, but the food is really delicious. Yi Shaoxi said. I understand. Ye Fusion nodded, and Yi Shaoxi left. Ye Fusion sat in front of the hut and stared at the rest of his life. What do you think I did? Ask the rest of his life. Cannot see. Ye Fusion glared at him. The rest of his life shows a sad expression, thinking to himself that you are in a bad mood. Take it here, Ye Fusion said. He took the gukan from his back and placed it in front of Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion played the piano by himself. Spread. It didn't take long for Yi Shaoxi to come again. At lunchtime, Ye Fusion and the rest of his life came to the second master's residence again. Fifth brother Luo Fan was busy serving dishes, second brother sat on the top position, Northern Tang Exinger sat next to waiting, third brother sat across from him, and fourth brother Zhu Zuai was still reading. Little teacher is here. The second teacher sister smiled lightly when she saw Ye Fusion. Brother Shi, Ye Fusion shouted with a smile. Hello, brother 3. Now that he knows the status of the 2 in the lodge, he must serve, and one cannot offend. Brother, sit by my side. Jiu Dongyu said. Ye Fusion nodded, and sat beside Jiu Dongyu. I too sat for the rest of my life. Since coming to the lodge, they are all family. Jiyu Dongyu smiled. The rest of his life nodded and sat next to Ye Fuxian. The four elder brothers glanced silently at the sight, and they were a little depressed. The little brother was treated so well. Little lion, go to serve, Sister Ershi said to Ye Shaoxi. Why me? Ye Shaoxi muttered in depression and glanced at Ye Fuxian. Didn't he say he was the smallest when he started? Sister Ershi looked at him with a smile. I will go. Ye Shaoxi's smile immediately piled up on his face, and his body rolled over running to serve rice. Very fragrant. Ye Fuxian looked at the plate in front of him, all of which was spinach, fragrant and fragrant. Beauty like sister number 2 and number 6 is so good. Fifth brother's workmanship is very good. Ye Fuxian said to the fifth brother who was looking up. Just practice. Brother 5 muttered in depression. Alright, let's have dinner. Sister Ershi laughed, and everyone immediately started eating. Ye Fuxian tasted one bite of the meat, it was very tender and very refreshing. After entering the body, he could feel the incredible airflow. Is this delicious? Ershi asked with a smile. Delicious. Ye Fuxian nodded. Eat more. Sister Ershi said to Ye Fuxian, and suddenly everyone's eyes were on it, looking at the scene with a surprise expression. Ye Shaoxi's eyes snorted, thinking that this is the benefit of a sweet mouth. Do you want to study? Glancing at brother 3 secretly, he rejected the thought again. Thank you, sister. Ye Fuxian said in his mouth, afraid to see the 3 brothers beside him. His heart was bitter. You should eat more too. Jiyu Dongyu gave the second division younger sister, and the second division sister lowered her head and ignored, but she did not refuse. Little master, shouted Jiyu Dongyu. Brother, Ye Fuxian replied. Your sister likes to joke around, don't take it seriously. Since I brought you here, you can find anything you find on the mountain. Jiyu Dongyu said meaningfully. Okay, my brother understands. Ye Fuxian nodded. Are you good at phonics? Jiyu Dongyu said. Although Ye Fuxian has broken many records in the ancient world, it is not clear what Ye Fuxian is good at, other than knowing that he is a complete attribute destiny mage. A little understanding. Ye Fuxian nodded. The sound of the strings is not crisp enough. It should have aged. Exinger will be with me later. We will help sister change the strings. Jiyu Dongyu. Beatang Exinger nodded slightly. Thank you brother and sister. Ye Fuxian smiled now. What did he think of second sister and third sister, such an awkward couple? After eating and drinking, Jiyu Dongyu said, go. I'll check it out too. Zhu Hui stood up with a smile. Ye Fuxian glanced at the rest of his life with a strange look in his eyes and whispered, do you feel something? Well, it's very strong. The rest of his life nodded, and the food seemed to have endless power, as if he wanted to vent. Ye Shaoxi said that the food was good, but it seemed very good. The group walked in one direction. Ye Fuxian found that the second sister never talked to the third brother. They came to a relatively distant place in the mountain, with a large rock cave ahead. Jiyu Dongyu entered the cave first, and Ye Fuxian followed quietly. Raw. A loud sound, Ye Fuxian only felt his blood falling, humming, barely spitting blood. Long Yin. Ye Fuxian's heart shook violently, his footsteps drifted, but he continued to move forward and walked into the cave. There were no caves inside, there were several rock caves, one of which had a terrifying pattern of light shining in front. Every mark on the stone wall would illuminate the cave, as if it contained an extremely terrifying frontal power. In the cave, a black dragon hovers there, eyes very shocked, angry and cold, looking at Jiyu Dongyu's figure. At this time, on the black dragon, there is a huge wound with blood. I will eat all of you, Hailong said coldly. You shouldn't die if you pull out the dragon tendon. Jiyu Dongyu said indifferently. The black dragon's eyes widened, and then he roared. The cave shook wildly, the runes around it lit up, turning into countless rays of terrifying light that covered the black dragon. The huge body struggled violently, and there was a faint feeling of splitting the sky. How dare you do this to me, Hailong roared. Why don't you think when you eat? Jiyu Dongyu said coldly. It was a growing black dragon that fed on practitioners, and the 3 brothers caught it. Beatang Exinger whispered beside Ye Fuxian. Did we just eat? Ye Fuxian looked at Beatang Exinger. Dragon meat, there are several evil kings beside them, they are very tenacious, they can grow meat every day and grow immediately. Beatang Exinger smiled gently. Long experience. Ye Fuxian always thought that he was very capable, and now he arrived at the hut, serving. Eat Demon King meat every day, this food is more than delicious. The 3 brothers said they wanted to draw dragon muscles. Ye Fuxian blinked. I'll make a string for you. Beatang Exinger smiled sweetly. Ye Fusion was so touched that he burst into tears, and never wanted to go down the mountain again, and chase him away. Next, the sky collapsed inside the cave. Ye Fusion ran out of the cave and couldn't stand it. There was a black dragon screaming and an angry roar. That's a cramp. Half an hour later, in front of Shu Gavi's thatched hut, Ye Fusion watched second and sixth sisters carefully change their gukan strings. There was an explosion of warmth in his heart. 3 siblings. At this time, Ye Shaoxi came here from a distance. What is it? Jiu Dongyu stood next to Zhu Gehui, watching his movements, and looked up and asked. Come here at the academy, say that this is the freshman exam, and invite the young master to participate. Ye Shaoxi said, according to their wishes, Xiao Wuji will also participate, and the young master will also participate. Xiao Wuji and Ye Fusion were invited to the campus. Tell them, don't come to the hut for such small things in the future, Jiu Dongyu said. Okay. Ye Shaoxi nodded. Chapter 226, Invitation of the Qin Dynasty. Great. Ye Fusion worshipped the 3 brothers a little, grabbed the demon lord to serve as food, and pumped the tendons to make strings. As for the people from the academy who invited the trial, there was no time. The Hay hut is so busy, how can you have time to participate in this boring ordeal, little brother, you say? The third brother smiled at Ye Fusion. Well, brother is right. Ye Fusion nodded, thinking that brother would be right about everything you said in the future. As for whether the hut is busy, it doesn't matter, outsiders don't know. Foretold, shouted Jiu Dongyu. Yes. The Snowy Knight answered the book. Don't copy books yet, said Jiu Dongyu, you take the young master to Shudong, and stay here for the rest of your life. Okay. The Snowy Knight was forgiven, disappointed the ratio of copying books equals pens, and then came to Ye Fusion and said, Little master, follow me. Come. Ye Fusion nodded, thinking where is the book hole. Zhu Ye took Ye Fusion to another cave in the thatched hut, and walked in. The cave was deep, and all the way forward, the front suddenly opened, as if it had a very bright light. Above the ground, a golden path appeared, with endless pulsing runes. Follow my steps carefully, make no mistake. Zhu Ye reminded him that there was light under his feet, and every time he took a step, Ye Fusion took a step with him, carefully. After walking through this path, they arrived at a huge cave house, and an extremely bright light reflected on their bodies. Ye Fusion looked into his eyes, only feeling a deep shock in his heart. It is like in the belly of the mountain, the cave is 100 meters high, and the mountain wall is cut into the shape of a bookshelf. I don't know how many books are placed on the mountain wall in the form of a bookshelf. At that time, Ye Fusion had trained at the Tokai Academy and entered the library of the Tokai Academy. However, he could not compare it to the current situation. This book pit is a sea of books. It's hard to imagine how many books were collected in that hut. I have all the books here, and the Kotang teacher doesn't teach. They rely on self-study. You take care of it yourself, Zhu Ye said. So many books, how can I finish reading them? Ye Fusion muttered. Zhu Ye almost cried when he heard this sentence. He looked at the many books in the book hole and sighed, so many books, it took hundreds of years to copy. Ye Fusion froze. He looked at Zhu Ye and said, 4 brothers, are you copying books here? I don't want to mention sadness, Zhu Ye complained. Brother Ershi looks really great, isn't she tall? Ye Fusion was a little curious. With a view from Ershi's sister, 4 brothers and 5 honest brothers. I don't know whether the realm of the second master is high or not. I only know that the third brother is very high. If you dare to say no to the second master. Zhu Ye said, looking at Ye Fusion, as if asking whether you understand. Ye Fusion nodded, he understood. The third brother is a character that makes the Qin dynasty and the Prince of Donghazong linger away, and can only sympathize with the fourth brother. Brother, what is your territory? Ye Fusion asked. I am in a very low state, only in the Middle Prince country. Zhu Ye said lowly. Ye Fusion stopped talking and forgot about it. It is impossible to imagine a scene where the prince honestly copies a book, and shows nothing in front of Sister Ershi, and he is no good. Isn't Brother 5 also a prince? Ye Fusion asked weakly. Of course. Zhu Ye nodded as a matter of course. Ye Fusion felt worse. Thinking about the appearance of cooking in the fifth master, is it really a prince? Don't be discouraged, the prince will be here sooner or later. You go here, I will go first. Zhu Ye patted Ye Fusion comfortably and then left. 4 brothers too, slowly endure, the book will be copied sooner or later. Ye Fusion screamed on Zhu Ye's back, and saw Zhu Ye's feet slapping, as if almost falling. Little master is right. Zuye did not turn around, as if he was saying this through gritting his teeth, thinking that he would not have general knowledge of children. After Zua left, Ye Fuxian looked at Dongfu Shushan and muttered, "How many years can I read this book? Not to mention transcription." Ye Fuxian looked at the sea of books. Many books seem to be classified into categories, and they are very detailed. Every profession has it all. When he saw a place with carved characters, he took the lead and walked there, looking from below. The first is the foundation of the piano, every note, and then simple music, from simple to complex. Ye Fuxian jumped to look. Looking behind him, he saw a lot of very powerful piano sound magic. This display is very old. Night came outside, and a shadow came to the book cave. Sister Exinger. Ye Fuxian shouted and put the book down with a smile. Your piano is ready, and dinner, the second teacher asked me to bring it. B. Tang Exinger smiled. Thank you, Sister Exinger. Ye Fuxian had a warm heart in his heart. The two sisters were really nice to him. He thought that such a kind-hearted person was like a sister. Why would some brothers be afraid like that? Must have misunderstood. No problem, I just read the book for a while. B. Tang Exinger laughed softly. Ye Fuxian nodded, and started to devour him. This is the flesh of the Demon King, the flesh of the dragon. Slow down and drink some soup. The soup is boiled by the Python King. B. Tang Exinger looked at Ye Fuxian and smiled. Okay, Ye Fuxian said while eating, Sister Exinger, you are not only beautiful, but also beautiful at heart. Poor mouth. B. Tang Exinger blushed slightly. After all, she is younger than Ye Fuxian. How can she resist Ye Fuxian's provocation? I'm telling the truth, I don't know who is so blessed to be able to marry Sister Exinger in the future. I'm jealous. Ye Fuxian said to himself. B. Tang Exinger's face became even redder and said, Ignore you now. Then he went to the other side to read. Ye Fuxian smiled and quickly finished the meal without wasting any time, and then continued reading. This appearance a few days. He did not leave Dongfu. Every day, B. Tang Exinger would come to deliver food on time. Ye Fuxian felt a little embarrassed, but B. Tang Exinger didn't seem to care at all. Smile unknowingly, it took Ye Fuxian months to spend months in the book pit. On that day, Ye Fuxian was practicing martial arts in front of the cliffs and cliffs of Gufeng. He looked like he had endless power. He ate dragon meat and drank demon boa soup every day. I don't know how much strength he has accumulated in his body. I want to let it go. Go out. When he practiced the body refining method taught by Emperor Ye King, his body was like that of a dragon, his blood rolled down, and he roared. At this time, he was practicing boxing, and every punch came out with a yin dragon, imposing a momentum, and a shock of terror. Go out. After a long time, his body made a roaring sound, endless power broke out, and turned into a terror martial arts atmosphere. The martial art of destroying the ground, the fourth level of the law phase. Ye Fuxian practiced boxing again, then walked towards the cliff, where there was a Gukun. He sat cross-legged on the cliff, and then the melodious sound of the piano came out. The beating notes in the piano sound are calm and peaceful, like mingling with nature, turning into a breeze, sweeping clothes and trees, turning into sunlight, falling, warming the earth. He doesn't play any piano music he has learned, but he does what he wants, and the harmony of the piano sound and artistic conception is the best piano music. Ye Fuxian's mental strength beats along with the notes, spreads around him. The farther away, he feels the wind, feels the sun, and feels the warmth of the moment. Without realizing it, the spiritual power broke through the boundary and broke the ground. In fact, if Ye Fuxian hadn't read in the book pit in the past few months, he would have been able to break through the terrain, but now it's just a problem. The sound of the piano stopped, and laughter came. I didn't expect the master's achievement on the piano to be so high. Ye Fuxian looked up and saw two fairy-like figures standing there. Sister Ershi, Sister Zinger, why are you here? Ye Fuxian stood up and said. Attracted by the sound of your piano, although it is only a simple piano sound, but it is very close to the integrated mood, piano and mind. It seems that I will have a piano master in Kotang. Zhu Hui smiled and looked at Ye Fuxian. Sister is amazing. Ye Fuxian smiled. Miatian. Let's go. Zhu Gehui said. Ye Fuxian held Gukun and left here. How was training for the rest of my life? Ye Fuxian asked. Relax, he has a strong talent for the rest of his life, and your three brothers took him to practice. Zhu Hui said. Yes. Ye Fuxian nodded, and naturally the rest of his life did not need to talk anymore. As soon as he returned to Sister Ershi's residence, he saw Yi Shaoxi say, Brother Ershi, people from the Qin dynasty came to visit. See. Qin dynasty. Zhu Viju took it, and asked, Is there anything to say? Yi Shaoxi nodded. The Qin dynasty said that the Qin dynasty will seize the prince and invite all the troops to witness the ceremony. Although he invited the academy, he purposely visited the thatched hut and said that he hoped that someone could go there as well. Zhu Huimi's eyes flashed a different color. The Qin dynasty was one of the three strongest powers in the eastern wasteland, and he was a dynasty. The cohesion is even the strongest. Even though the strength of the academy is very strong, academies and dynasties are not the same. The closing of the Qin dynasty prince, which will determine the future pattern of the eastern desert, is indeed an important event. After inviting the academy, he had deliberately invited the lodge to express his respect for the lodge. Who wants here to go? Zhu Hui looked at a few people. I. 4 brothers raised their hands. Brother, I'm going. Brother 5 didn't want to. I want to go too, Yi Shaoxi said weakly. Ye Fusion showed a strange look. Zhu Hui said with a smile. Why, want to run from me so much? Sister, we didn't mean it that way, but since the Qin dynasty invited us to the hut, sister and you 3 brothers will definitely not go. In order not to weaken the face of the hut, I have to go, Zhu Ye said shamelessly. That makes sense. Zhu Hui nodded with a smile. Luo Fan, bring your young master. Luo Fan froze, and then rejoiced. Thank you, sister. Chapter 227, 5 brothers descending the mountain. Luo Fan was very happy, but Ye Fusion was not happy. The food at the lodge is very good, the sister is beautiful, and she can't bear to go out for a day. Brother, let go of big brother 7. Ye Fusion said to brother Yi Shaoxi was moved to see Ye Fusion, thinking that little brother was a good person. The teacher said that it would be better to walk 10,000 miles to read thousands of books. Lao Chi has been out many times. You just came to the desert in the east and go out more often, she said with a smile. Zhu Ye and Yi Shaoxi saw the gentle smile of the second teacher, thinking why was his sister being treated so well. Oh, Ye Fusion nodded. Let's go for the rest of your life, and the old 4 and 7 children will be yours when it comes to chopping wood for cooking. Sister she said with a smile. Zhu Ye and Yi Shaoxi were bleeding, but they didn't dare to shake their heads to say no. The next day, the rest of his life returned. Luo Fan, Ye Fusion, and the rest of his life set off together. Walking on the mountain road, Ye Fusion asked his whole life, where are you practicing today? Cut firewood on the mountain, the rest of his life replied. Cutting firewood. Ye Fusion blinked. The rest of his life nodded. Ye Fusion has a black line on his face. The second teacher said that the third brother took the rest of his life to practice. This is practice. How do you feel? Ye Fusion asked. Well, I feel a lot of progress. Ye Fusion said solemnly, and said, for the rest of your life, are you serious? Yes, third brother said, everyone's situation is different, and the practice is naturally different. Fourth brother is copying books, fifth brother is also practicing. Letting me chop firewood is also a kind of practice. I feel that I have made progress. Big. Zhu Wei also broke through to the fourth order method. Ye Fusion worshipped the 3 brothers more and more, and he was so noble that he could copy wood and burn rice, and the 3 brothers were just magicians. Wait a minute, you also called brother 3. Ye Fusion said. Well, the 3 brothers said I would just scream like you. The rest of his life nodded. Ye Fusion looked at the rest of his life strangely and asked, what do you think of brother 3? With deep knowledge and strong cultivation, he has unique insight into spiritual practice. The rest of his life said earnestly. Okay. Luo Fan in front couldn't help but laugh. Ye Fusion asked, 5 brothers, is cooking some kind of practice? Of course, Luo Fan said solemnly, and Ye Fusion asked again, how do the brothers want to go down the mountain? Cough. Luo Fan coughed, then studied Sister Urshi's tone of voice, and said seriously, the teacher said, it would be better to walk 1,000 miles to read thousands of books. Ye Fusion was silent. Many people gathered in the square on the slopes of Shushan Mountain. There are college deans, 7 mountain heads, and there are many teachings under the deans and mountain heads. They are responsible for cooperating with the deans and mountain heads to teach disciples. Thatched huts had a special status in the academy, which was very different. Since that year, when the thatched hut lord descended on the mountain to close the war, the world didn't just think of the hut as a university thatched hut. The relationship between the academy and the thatched hut seems to have become smooth since then. The Qin dynasty invited the thatched huts, and of course also invited the academy, and people would go to the mountains in the academy. After the 3 Luo Fans descended, the eyes of many people suddenly fell on them, especially Ye Fusion and the rest of his life. Many eyes looked at them. A few months ago, Ye Fusion stepped into the mountain and entered the hut, causing a sensation in the academy. Mo said that it was an academy. At this time, the people of the top forces in the eastern wasteland had already learned of the news that Ye Fuxian had officially entered the hut. The thatched hut is not the same as all the other forces, there are only 7 disciples in total, the great disciples have even started to become a generation of giant figures, the other 6 and 3 disciples have already become famous throughout the world, therefore, the other disciples are very seen. Is it going to the hut this time? At this moment, a voice said softly, a middle-aged man in the academy, with a majestic appearance. Luo Fan looked at him, with clasped hands, saluted, Luo Fan has seen uncle. At this moment, Luo Fan was personable, extraordinary temperament, and polite, he looked like a scholar and like a child in the cottage. It's changed a lot, Ye Fuxian said with emotion. A few months ago, the academy started evaluating students. Why didn't the lodge come along? Sichu Wu said coldly. He was the one who came from the dean. He was quite senior and naturally qualified to teach a disciple in the lodge. Luo Fan didn't care, and calmly laughed, teachers always think that the academy's assessment is unreasonable. Each introductory student has a different field. How to separate winners and losers. If it is only better than talent, the cottage needs less. Yes, disciple a talented newcomer, whose talent is comparable to that of a young master. If that was the case, the former would be meaningless. Arrogance. Another elder said coldly, the people in the cottage are arrogant as usual, and now this Luovan has become a climate, so they don't put their elders in their eyes. The academy disciples also looked at Luo Fan angrily. If Kotang participated, the first point would be meaningless. Too arrogant, where does this put them? Disciple, to be honest, is the academy's assessment more convincing than the ruins of the ancient and ancient world? Luo Fan smiled. Fuxian, in the middle of the ancient and ancient world, did something that no one had done, and it was better than talent in different situations. He said that Ye Fuxian had doubts. Unless the academy doesn't recognize talent detection in the ruins of the ancient and ancient world, but why is the academy's assessment more accurate? So the so-called judgment is naturally boring in the view of the cottage. In that case, I will find someone who is in good shape to fight in battle. I am currently practicing the 5th order method. A voice sounded, and the speaker was the new disciple, Tu Bayun, who had set foot in Shushan a few months ago. He once quipped that Ye Fuxian wasn't Xiao Wuji, but in the end he slapped himself. After entering the academy, for the first time, he hoped to meet Ye Fuxian to see if he was so extraordinary. However, Ye Fuxian did not participate at all. Practicing in the academy, Ye Fuxian's name was often mentioned by his younger disciples, as one of the most outstanding new disciples, he naturally had some ideas in his heart. Fuxian. Luo Fan looked at Ye Fuxian, and saw Ye Fuxian glanced at Tu Bayun, smiled, and said, do you think you are Xiao Wuji? Tu Bayun's gaze was a bit stubborn, and his face was a bit ugly. When he first went to Shushan, he was so ironic that Ye Fuxian said that Ye Fuxian was not qualified. Now that Ye Fuxian returns the original words, of course he is not qualified. Xiao Wuji has now pierced through the heavens. Even though you have done great things in the ancient world, it doesn't feel right to put yourself in Xiao Wuji's shoes based on your current training. Su Muge was also among the crowd, it was the man Yi Shaoxi mocked that day. Tang He was also beside him. When did the students teaching at the academy become idiots like you? Luo Fan glanced at Su Muge with disdain. You. Although Su Muge mocked Ye Fuxian, he didn't have the same direct disdain as Luo Fan. He happened to be Tianzhao from the academy, and the dean passed on his students. What do you say about you in terms of realm, my prince, how about you? Luo Fan's eyes looked disgusted. Dominate. Ye Fuxian muttered in his heart, is this still the 5 brothers cooking? Sure enough, people shouldn't see. Thinking about Brother Five's current posture, and wanting to arrange Brother Five's appearance in the hall next to Brother Second, Ye Fuxian seemed to understand why Brother was rushing down the mountain. Down the mountain, arrogant. The gap is too big. Some of the academy elders were cold and looked a bit unsightly. That was why the academy didn't like the hut, and it was all empty. Besides, there was no way for the academy to obtain a hut. You can tell him the rules. Student fluency in the lodge is always good. If you talk about strength, even some of the mountain heads in the academy will not dare to say that the 3 disciples with absolute certainty surpass the thatched hut. Besides, the other people are just 3 disciples in the hut, and your parents may not hold them back, let alone their peers. What's more, there is a big disciple in the thatched hut, who is the king of the western region. This kind of cottage, it's hard not to hate the academy, set off. Sichu Wu said faintly, Then, several great demons whistled, descended into the square, and the disciples stepped on the beasts and got up. Where are we going? Ye Fusion looked at Brother Luo Fan, thinking that if the monsters behind the hut could catch one or two of them, they would be very prestigious. Luo Fan removed the wrap on his back and untied the cloth. Ye Fusion saw a stick, and his whole body was black, as if on fire. Burning fire sticks. Ye Fusion blinked. The next three should stand up. Luo Fan smiled, slightly embarrassed. This. Ye Fusion saw many people from the academy staring at him, only feeling a little embarrassed. However, Luo Fan didn't care at all. He went to the burning stick with his hands on his shoulders and looked like an expert, hiding his strength and name. The rest of the life in Ye Fusion walked, and then burned the air, leaving Shushan. Ellipsis. The Qin dynasty, as the former king of the eastern region, occupied the most central position in the eastern region. The king's city of the Qin dynasty, Donghua city where Dong Hazong was located, and the god capital where the academy was located, were known as the three busiest cities in the eastern wasteland. Today, Qin King City is very lively. I don't know how many people have come to pay their respects from all sides of Qin King City. The king of Qin will seize the prince, which will be a major event that affects the eastern wasteland. It is likely that he will be transferred in the near future. The king of Qin, calling him the most powerful person in the eastern wasteland, cannot be overstated. The people sitting on the throne can change, and it is conceivable that the impact will be great. At this moment, above the void, the strong are constantly coming out of the sky, even descending across the endless realm. The top powers in the eastern wasteland were invited by King Wangcheng, and they also sent strong people to watch the ceremony and congratulate them. Chapter 228, The Prince and the Sun. Qin Palace, this sacred and majestic palace, had undergone baptism in countless years and had faced a crisis of destruction, but it still stood in the eastern desert. However, even though it was still one of the three strongest powers in the eastern wasteland, the Qin dynasty was still not complacent. After all, the former Qin dynasty was the real king of the eastern wasteland, and generation after generation of Qin Wang tried hard to restore past glory. There is a large square outside the Qin palace, and armored guards guard the square, and further ahead, there is a step down. At this time, there are many people looking at the sacred and solemn place in front. At this time, a strong one came from the sky and fell in front of the stairs. The imperial coronation of the prince should be a major event. In addition, in the area around the Qin dynasty, it is very prosperous, and sometimes powerfully falls from the sky, and there are even rumors that the powerful forces of the eastern Vasteland's top forces have arrived, live in the inn, and will be sealed in the main hall of the prince of the Qin dynasty. Always visit Guanli. At this time, in the area, a group of people dressed in white descended from the sky and descended into the palace. Many people below saw their eyes flickering and talking. Donghazong people are here. Yes, Donghazong is the closest to the Qin dynasty. Many people whisper. The palace where Donghazong's power arrived belonged to Donghazong in Qin Wangcheng. Of course, there are no Donghazong people. Only a few people keep it. Not only Donghazong, but the top powers in the eastern wasteland have their own industries in places like Qin Wangcheng, which is not very meaningful to them. In another direction, a row of fairy figures appeared in the void, and many were extremely beautiful. Soon, there was news from Qin Wangcheng that the fairy of the Wangu sect had come to Wangcheng and came to Wanguju. Similarly, there was the Wangu sect's industry. Then, it was reported that the strong man Fuyun Janzong arrived and descended to Jianghe. The strong people of Dosheng Mountain also arrived, where they live as Doge, who is not far from Doge. They are tit for tat, and it is unknown if the two armies will experience friction again. At this time, the strength of the academy also arrived, and they came to the Qin King City Library. The building was old and fragrant, and at first glance looked like the residence of the clergy. Ye Fusion, Luo Fan, and the rest of his life chose the courtyard in the study, and several servants cleaned it. Brother, you said that all major forces have their own industry in Qin Wangcheng. Where will Movezong live if they arrive? Ye Fusion asked Luo Fan in the courtyard, wondering if Sheyu would not come. It's gone one day, like every third fall. Juwanguju, why do you have an attempt on the fairy of the Wangu sect? Luo Fan looked at Ye Fusion with a smile. He didn't know about Wajayu. The lodge didn't pay much attention to things in the ancient world. The lodge received Ye Fusion and Jiu Dongyu's disciples told them about Ye Fusion. The people in the hut didn't even know what Ye Fusion had done in the ancient world. I have the opportunity to walk. Ye Fusion laughed. It seems that the young master is a person with a will. Luo Fan patted Ye Fuxian on the shoulder. It is best to marry Wang Wezong's girl to the cottage. Wang Wezong still has a girl? Ye Fuxian asked. Of course, today's Virgin Moon sect is one of the three beauties in the East Wasteland. Luo Fan laughed. How? Are you interested? Ye Fuxian showed a strange expression. Wang Wezong has a girl who is called one of the three beauties in the Eastern Wasteland. What happened after the interpretation? Brother, I am not that kind of person. Ye Fuxian said correctly. How could he misunderstand like this? Luo Fan looked at him with a smile, but saw Ye Fuxian's eyes flash, and asked, who are the other two? Luo Fan's smile was even brighter, and he almost believed it. Princess of the Qing dynasty is like Princess King of Qing dynasty and Hua Kang King of Dong Hazong, but you don't need to think about Hua Kang King. You have been rushed to the top, Luo Fan said with a smile. Brother, I didn't think much, just wanted to ask. Ye Fuxian said. Well, I believe. Luo Fan nodded with a smile. Ye Fuxian sighed in his heart and was used to being misunderstood. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. The top power came to King City, and King City became more lively. Among the great restaurants, even many storytellers talk about the interesting facts of the great power and attract the attention of many people. Currently, the most talked about person had no accidents, and naturally His Highness Qin Yu of the Qin dynasty. This time Prince Qin ordered Prince, everyone knew who Prince Qin Yu was. This talented prince had been one of the most dazzling beings of his comrades in the Eastern Wasteland since he was young. When he was less than 30 years old, he set foot in the prince realm and grew at an incredible speed. The realm is not far away. Today, Qin Yu is likely to become the new king of Qin in 10 years, and naturally there are many people talking about him. Qin Yu is not only very talented, but also has a high reputation in the Qin dynasty. It is said that Qin Yu visited in person shortly after Dong Hazong entered King City. Apart from Qin Yu, who will be the prince, the names of Xiao Wuji and Ye Fuxian are often mentioned. Before Ye Fuxian appeared, Xiao Wuji was the most legendary figure in the ancient world in recent years. When he was invited by the academy, he became the president's personal disciple. How can such a person not be discussed? Ye Fuxian's appearance in the ancient world was even better than Xiao Wuji. In addition, the formal entry into the thatched cottage naturally attracted many topics. At this time, in the bustling Qin dynasty city and bookstore, a group of strong people came to visit today. The head of the group is very extraordinary, wearing a beautiful royal robe. Sichu Wu of the academy greeted him personally. The person who will come is Qin Yu, who will be the prince. Qin Yu talked with the academy for a while, and then came to visit the courtyard where Luo Fan and Ye Fuxian were. Seeing the impending prince, Ye Fuxian was a bit surprised. He thought that Qin Yu must be busy now, but he didn't expect to visit. Qin Yu arched his arms at Luo Fan and the others, smiled, and said, "It's an honor to see the disciples in the hut." Your Majesty is polite, Luo Fan replied archingly. It has always been my dream to want to train in the thatched hut. Unfortunately, it must have failed, but I didn't see Jiu Dongyu this time. Too bad, I wanted to talk to him. Qin Yu smiled, the tone is not offensive and well controlled. The three brothers are too busy to leave. Luo Fan laughed. Because it was busy, only the thatched hut knew. By the way, it is an honor to meet Brother Luo, not to mention, I have also seen people who broke many records in the ancient world. Qin Yu's eyes looked at Ye Fuxian, looking very friendly. Your Honor. Ye Fuxian nodded with a smile. Qin Yu nodded slightly at Ye Fuxian, and then said, Brother Luo, would you like to have a chat? Your Majesty, please, said Luo Fan. Qin Yu glanced at a young man next to him. The young man wore a Chinese suit and was acquainted with Qin Yu. He was around 20 years old and had a royal temperament in his body. After he arrived, his eyes continued to look curiously. Ye Fuxian, does Brother Ye mind going elsewhere? At this time, the young man suddenly said. No need, Ye Fuxian is the little boy in the hut, so he doesn't need to avoid him. Luo Fan understood what the other party meant. That's what happened, I'm blunt. Qin Yu said, can Brother Luo represent the lodge? Luo Fan glanced at Qin Yu in surprise, and then nodded with a smile. Of course, every disciple in the cottage can represent the cottage, and the opinion of the cottage students is the view of the cottage. Little master, you can also remember clearly after that, if you walk in outside, you will represent the thatched hut. Ye Fuxian glanced at brother, and sighed in his heart, such a place is really hard to make people not feel belonging. Even if he just entered the hut, he is only a practitioner of the law, but if he is outside, he can also represent the hut, which is the whole, and anyone can represent the whole. Yes, brother. Ye Fuxian nodded. King Yu smiled and said, "This is so bold. Can the thatched hut be the orthodox school of the Eastern Wasteland Academy?" "Why?" Luo Fan asked. "The world seeks education, respects thatched huts, and holds the wushu of the classics academy." King Yudav. Luo Fan smiled and shook his head, and said, "His good intentions have guided." King Yu glanced at him in surprise, and before this was finished, Luo Fan bluntly refused. His gaze stared at Luo Fan, only listening to Luo Fan continue, "The cottage has the ideal of a thatched cottage, but His Majesty said is not the ideal of the cottage, okay." King Yu nodded, still with the look on his face with a faint smile, curved, "Farewell." After all, King Yu really took people away. When he left, the young man beside him looked at Ye Fusion. Seeing the back of King Yu's departure, Luo Fan slightly frowned. This journey is not easy. King Yu, who is about to be crowned prince, seems to have great ambitions. After King Yu and his son left, they walked the streets of Wangcheng with a voice that reached their ears. At this time, in an open restaurant, Ye Fusion's name seemed to appear there. In the ancient world, everyone thought that Xiao Wuji was unrivaled, and no one could surpass him. However, on the same day, Ye Fusion even broke records. A few months later, he removed the brilliance of the Jingshan stone wall. "One generation, it's just about talent, I'm afraid that few people can compare to it." The voice came from the storyteller, where he seemed very busy. The young man next to King Yu smiled and then said, "People are always used to forgetting the glory created by their predecessors. Whenever there are some deeds of later generations, they are worshipped to their gods." Many people looked there. When they saw King Yu and his group, they suddenly looked surprised, and then looked at the speaker. They faintly guessed the identity of the other party, and their eyes couldn't help showing a very sharp light. There he is, the legendary grandson. The so-called record itself is used to break it, and future generations will eventually be cheaper than their predecessors, generation after generation. However, how many of those who have broken records can stand at the peak of the Eastern Wasteland? Speaking, the two criminals from Donghazong, you must have forgotten what they have done. If you forget, you may remember that what they have done can be summed up in not just 2 words of talent. Chapter 229, The History of the Straw Hut. King Wang's son was named King Li, one of the most evil characters of the younger generation in the Eastern Wasteland. Today, his father would become one of the most powerful figures in the Eastern Wasteland. He had been captivated as the city prince of the King. King Li's every move will definitely be magnified. Therefore, when King Yu was about to be sealed, King Li's statement instantly caused many waves in King Wangcheng. Although King Li's words didn't seem to match or even refer to Ye Fusion's name, it was easy to misunderstand such words at this point. Of course, there might not be a misunderstanding, which in itself is a kind of attitude. Ye Fusion is an academy student, and King Wangsun holds Donghazong's disciples, which means interesting. Of course, from another point of view, it seems that King Wangsun also said that the record was broken by the descendants. Just because Ye Fusion was broken too strong, it would cause a large scale in the low stage realm order. Sensation, let Donghanging know the name. No one knew how strong Ye Fusion would be in the future, but at least for now, he was still a low-level practitioner. As for the two peerless monsters of Donghazong, each and every one of them was extremely extraordinary, especially those already standing at the pinnacle of the Eastern Wasteland, perhaps only Prince Edward King Yu and Kotang Jiu Dongyu. To compare her to him, King Li's words immediately entered the ears of the main forces that came to King City. It is said that someone met with the disciples of Donghazong and asked what they thought of Wang's son King Li's words. Donghazong's disciples said with a smile that although Ye Fusion had performed well in the ancient realms and proved his talent, he wanted to be together with the Eastern Wasteland. The most evil characters were on par with each other, but they were still a bit hot. At least, he wasn't never proved itself in combat effectiveness. Donghazong disciples said that maybe a few years later Ye Fusion's realm would be higher, and then he would be qualified to be compared with those top criminals. Many people nodded silently, only feeling that King Li's words and the words of Donghazong's disciple had some reasons. On the one hand, talent is extraordinary, but if you think about Ye Fusion's performance in the ancient world, it really hasn't proven its combat effectiveness. Maybe in terms of willpower, he has extraordinary talent. Of course, in any case, their comparison with Ye Fusion as the most evil group of people in the Eastern Wasteland. In addition, some people smell an unusual odor. King Wang's son King Li is going to be a grandson. Why would he publicly comment on the disciples and people of Donghazong? Ye Fusion didn't know the voices of the people from King Li and Donghazong until Liu Go's people came to visit and found them. I've seen Senior Luo. Naturally, Liu Gulai was Liu Feiang and Liu Shenyu. When they met Luo Fan, they were rude and Ye Fuxian gradually got used to it. Even if the Qin dynasty prince came, they had to treat Luo Fan equally. Of course, this is also because Ye Fuxian is preformed, and when he first saw the five brothers, he saw him honestly cooking, only to feel a little strange in the outside world. The students in the huts in Shushan and the students in the huts under Shushan were very different. Your friend, Luo Fan asked Ye Fuxian. Ye Fuxian nodded. You tell, Luo Fan said, walked to the side and sat down. Is your house clean? Ye Fuxian smiled at Liu Shenyu. Liu Shenyu. I checked, and dust-free shouldn't come. Only you and the rest of your group are here. Liu Feiang said at this time. Yu is not coming. Ye Fuxian asked. Not. Liu Feiang shook his head. Ye Fuxian was a little lost, maybe because Yu didn't know he was coming. Have you heard of Qin Wangsun and Dong Hazong? Liu Feiang asked. Ye Fuxian shook his head. What's wrong? Liu Feiang told Ye Fuxian about everything that happened. Not far away, Luo Fan glanced at the sight, and there was a strange color in his eyes, but then he continued as usual, as if he didn't really care. Ye Fuxian showed a strange expression, and said, why did Qin Li say this? It is said that the Prince of Qin Yu visited the top forces and his ambition is not small, said Liu Feiang. Qin Yu wants to revive the Qin dynasty in his hands, but it's not as simple as he imagined, even if he joins Dong Hazong and wants to establish the former king of the eastern region. Luo Fan smiled and trembled before he finished speaking. Shook his head. Imaginary dream. Senior Luo means Qin Wangcheng and Dong Hazong have joined. Liu Fei's eyes were sharp. One wants the rise of the dynasty, and the other wants to be the first in the world. There is no contradiction between the two. Luo Fan smiled. In fact, you can add strength, such as enlightening the world. College. Liu Feiang only felt a little scared. It seems that Qin Yu has spoken to Luo Fan. If the three strongest powers in the eastern wasteland worked together, the energy they gave off would definitely be terrifying, and there really was no contradiction between the three. Dynasties, ancestral gates, and academies can only complement each other. Ye Fuxian glanced at Brother Luo Fan in surprise. He didn't expect it to be just a simple meeting and a few voices from Sun Qin and Dong Hazong. Brother Five guessed a lot of things. The academy refused. Liu Feiang asked. If the academy also agreed, the influence of the academy, coupled with Qin Wangcheng and Dong Hazong, would be a little frightening. Now that the academy is Eastern Orthodox, why do we need to make wedding dresses for other people? Those people aren't stupid. Luo Fan smiled. So I thought of the cottage for convenience, but the Qin dynasty is too underrated. Even though the teacher is lazy, he has an ideal person. Ye Fuxian blinked. Before that, the five brothers told Qin Yu that the cottage had that ideal, and he was a little curious. What is the teacher's ideal? Forget it. Next time you see the teacher, ask the old man. Luo Fan said with a smile. Ye Fuxian was slightly speechless. So, are Qin Wangsun's words deliberately demeaning Ye Fuxian and promoting Dong Hazong? Liu Feiang's eyes flashed. Luo Fan's words were not too unexpected. The Qin dynasty has always wanted to revive the dynasty, and Dong Hazong has always wanted to. It's no secret that Dong Hang worked hard in the first case. Possible. Luo Fan smiled. Will you fight back? Liu Feiang asked. The cottage doesn't need to pay attention to other people's views. How many people asked before the master went down the mountain? After the War of God, who doesn't know the world? Some people think that the existence of the master is just a coincidence. Then the three masters descended. All the sound disappears, and the silent person is naturally silent. Luo Fan said faintly. The history of the fame of the cottage is simple, only the story of two disciples who descended the mountain. However, the simple story is quite lively, and the great leader of the lodge who challenges the Lord of Clouds and Clouds, who is a battle expert in the first battle, founded a school. The history of the three brothers' fame is even simpler. Master Kotang often travels and experiences tragedy. A first-rate young prince falls in love with a family because he is rejected. When teacher Kotang met this family, there was only one orphan left. According to many rumors, Master Kotang doesn't practice much, they only teach others to practice. The young man once spoke well, but was carried away by the majesty of the Kotang disciples, but he did not dare to do so, and only let the teacher Kotang bring the orphans back. Then, it was much simpler. When the three lodge disciples descended the mountain, the power of the first-class prince disappeared from the east. With these two things in mind, the thatched hut has moved the world in its name and has become a sacred place for countless hereditary practices. So that in the future, although the students in the hut did not take many shots, Every time a disciple came down the mountain, no force dared to stop. Who knows if they will start another battle in World War I? Thinking of this, Luo Fan smiled and said, King Wang's son is right, the world has always forgotten the glory of its predecessors, the habit of forgetting, not a long lesson. Liu Feiyang heard Luo Fan's words speechless, thinking that the hut is indeed a hut, and the pride is too much, and this arrogance seems to be contagious, so is every disciple of the disciple. When Jiu Dongyu came to Kangye, he had already studied. After that, the 5 disciples in the hut are very proud now. Ye Fuxian, himself, is a very proud person, and now that he has entered such a place, he doesn't know what it will be like. Chapter 230, Heavenly Beauty. Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu left because of the sensation of King Wang's son's words, but the cottage didn't seem to mind at all. What can they say? Time will prove everything. They were looking forward to Ye Fuxian's exhibition of the peerless beauty of the ancient world. Although the current state is inferior, Liu Feiyang believes that the talent that Ye Fuxian has shown in the ancient world. When the actual state is strong, he will naturally be silent as Luo Fan expected. Mouth out. However, people outside the world don't think so. The so-called people are like clouds, and the more people say it, the more true it is. In particular, the person who spoke was also the strong people of Qin Wangsun and Dong Hazong. Not everyone could see what was behind them like Luo Fan. Most people also accept this view. Ye Fuxian's eyes were indeed interested. Too much, his territory is not enough to support such a reputation, after all, he has not really revealed his combat effectiveness until today. It may be several years before Ye Fuxian's world is lifted, before he is truly qualified for the world's attention. It's still too early. In a few more days passed. Only one day remains before the canonization ceremony of the prince of the Qin dynasty. On this day, another powerful person from the Qin dynasty came to the bookstore and invited people from the academy and thatched cottage to stay in the Qin palace. Zhongge Wanli. Not only academies and thatched huts, but also people from the top powers were invited. The Qin dynasty invited the troops to stay in the palace one day in advance, which would not disturb the people of the main army, and show sufficient respect and care. On this day, there were many people waiting under the steps of the Qin Wang Palace's giant square, and they wanted to meet people from the top forces. At this moment, in the void, a group of strong men descended from the sky. This line of characters has an extraordinary temperament. They descended directly on the square, then walked towards the Qin palace. Soon after, Mochizuki's fairy came. The person that Mochizuki headed was a very beautiful woman. Her temperament was dusty, her eyes were like spring water, her skin was like curd, and her waist was as thin as a willow. She was beautiful. Like an immortal figure, she was not like a worldly person, but she revealed the woman's tenderness and beauty. She was like a fairy with fireworks that came into the world, and it made people want to get closer to her. Sacred Moon Sect King, Chu Yan. Seeing the beauty of the woman, they couldn't help but feel like they wanted to pity the woman. They seemed to have forgotten each other's identity, and they didn't need their pity at all, but she had such a charm. The 3 great beauties of the eastern wasteland are often cited as comparisons. It is said that the little princess Qin Mengruo is charming, noble and graceful, and is a goddess-like figure in the hearts of many. Dongba Zonghaqingqing is said to be very pure and beautiful. No one who saw it could produce a trace of blasphemy. As for Chu Yan, everyone has seen him now. Chu Chu is touching and pitiful. Today, when Chu Kyun entered the Qin palace, it was likely that he would meet a peerless beauty. I don't know what the scene will be like. Unfortunately, Dong Hazong's Hua Kangqing did not come, otherwise the 3 beauties gathered together. Beauty speaks. In the void, another strong person came, but the people of Liu Guo, Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu naturally saw the Mizuki people, and also saw Chu Yan. One of the 3 beauties in the eastern wasteland truly deserves its reputation, and it is even better than you. Liu Feiyang said to Liu Shenyu. Liu Shenyu's eyes flashed, but he didn't really care. However, in the future, the names of the 3 beauties in the East Wasteland may disappear, and the 4 beauties will take their place. Liu Feiyang thought to smile. Liu Shenyu nodded in agreement, and Hua Jiayu's face was not inferior to Chu Yun's. In addition, Wajiayu also entered the Wezong sect. Let's go. Liu Goran also walked towards the Qin palace. The Qin palace invited the top troops in the Eastern Wasteland to come and observe the ceremony. Of course, all the troops just sent representatives to come. The giants did not come. They just sealed the prince. It was not enough to be sent by the top giants. Maybe when the king of Qin passes the throne, the giants of the army may be here after that. Great powers came one after another. The people from the academy also came. The cottage is naturally together, although the academy does not like the cottage, and the students in the cottage do not really see the academy, it is an internal matter. The academy's arrival immediately caught the attention of many people, especially the three people in the thatched hut standing beside him, who were even more visible. Is it the five disciple Lodge, Luo Fan? It was said that he was already a strong person in the prince world. There is also Ye Fusion. Everyone is somewhat surprised. Ye Fusion is very handsome, looks romantic, and temperament is extraordinary. Ye Fusion, they didn't care what other people thought, and walked straight towards Qin Palace. Someone outside the King's palace led them to where the other troops in the Qin Palace were. Ye Fusion, they walked on the road, and met many other top forces. It so happened that Liu Feiang and Liu Shenyu were also encountered. When he saw Ye Fusion's arrival, Liu Feiang laughed and came forward and said, don't go to the palace just yet, go around. With that said, he stepped forward and pulled Ye Fusion over. Ye Fusion's face was black, and he said to Luo Fan, brother, let's go. Okay. Luo Fan nodded slightly, and Ye Fusion and the rest of his life followed Liu Feiang and Liu Shenyu. What can be done in the palace? Ye Fusion said to Liu Feiang, this person even pulled him away. Would you like to see the three beauties in the eastern wasteland? Liu Feiang smiled and looked at Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion blinked his eyes and said, beauty is like a cloud to me, and has no interest. Not going. Liu Feiang laughed. Of course, since it's already here, there's nothing to worry about, it's okay to take a look. Ye Fusion said. Liu Shenyu behind looked at Ye Fusion with disdain, and glanced, as if the two people in front of him were not liked, and the man was very excited. He was intrigued by the beauty. Several people came to the garden with many pavilions and the environment was very elegant. At this time, there are already many people here, all the young junior figures of the main forces, their eyes are looking at the same place. In front of the crowd, in a pavilion, a woman is sitting quietly, in front of her, is a gukan, as if preparing to play the piano. Beautiful girl. Ye Fusion couldn't help but praise it, of course, he just admired it. Natural people like him naturally wouldn't have much on his mind. The woman in the pavilion was noble and graceful. At first glance, he looked like someone who could hit one's atrium, like a fairy god in a dream. The heart of every man is like the woman who lives in it. Ye Fusion's arrival did not attract much attention. It's not that he doesn't know. Several people were attracted by the women in the pavilion. They didn't have time to pay attention to it, and some people deliberately ignored it. After all, but there are a lot of very unusual youngsters, all from the main top flight teams. The little princess of the Qin dynasty, Qin Mengruo. Liu Feiang whispered. Ye Fusion nodded slightly. There, Chu Yan. Liu Feiang pointed in another direction, and a group of beautiful women stood together, and one of them looked inferior to Qin Mengruo and was simply stunning. Who do you think looks good? Liu Feiang asked with a low smile. My girlfriend looks the best, Ye Fusion said. Just the two of us. Liu Feiang smiled and looked at Ye Fusion, revealing the eyes that you understand. I'm different from you. Ye Fusion glanced at Liu Feiang seriously, in a serious manner. It seems that little sister's tutor is very strict. Liu Feiang patted Ye Fusion's shoulder with a smile, and Ye Fusion's face was black. He looked around and saw many familiar figures. For example, the witch of the demonic sect Jiu Biu. Fu Yunjian, Li Doin sect disciple and brother Li Daoqing. Dong Hazong's walking pool was also there. Why don't you start? Ye Fusion was a little confused. Since Qin Meng was already in front of Gukan, she was ready to play, but she didn't move. Waiting for someone, said Liu Feiang. Who? Ye Fusion was slightly surprised. Today, so many top-tier Tianzhou figures are in, even the Moon Sect Virgin. Who can keep the people here waiting? Dong Hazong, Qianshan Mu. Liu Feiang said. Qi Lili said that Dong Hazong is the two culprits, Qianshan Mu is one of them. A few days ago, King Li used Ye Dongzong's two evil spirits to destroy Ye Fusion. Two of them, one is the same name as the three Kotang disciples, Jiu Dongyu, Qin Bangcheng Prince Junzi Qin Yu, and the other is Qianshan Mu. Ye Fusion was slightly surprised, even the Qianshan twilight of Dong Hazong doesn't seem to be enough. Only Qin Mengruo and Chu Yan, two peerless beauties in the East Wasteland, one is a prince of the dynasty, and the other is a virgin, whose status is not inferior to Qianshan Mu. Qianshan Mu is good at temperament and is said to be the strongest person in the younger generation. If Qin Meng invites everyone to come today, it will be appreciated by everyone. Therefore, Qianshan Mu will naturally have to wait. Liu Feiang said, in the past, you used to play against Jiu Biu with rhythm, and you were also good at the piano. Today, you can enjoy it. As they spoke, a figure slowly came out. This man is very handsome, with the meaning of free and easy all over his body, wearing white clothes, his gaze is straight ahead, and no one is present, as if no one deserves his attention. Here he is. Everyone looked at Qianshan Mu, and the so-called Tianzhao figure, the strongest younger generation in the eastern wasteland, came to the King City Palace. Even though the descendants here gathered in the sky, there weren't many people who could truly compare their fame to Qianshan Mu. Even the two most beautiful beauties Qin Mengruo and Chu Yan were slightly inferior. This reputation is comparable to Qianshan Mu. From here we can see how great Qianshan Mu is.